Hello and welcome to the Etoft21 Sports Show for May 16th. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I am the man behind Etoft21 Sports. We have a phenomenal show lined up for you today with the NFL schedule coming out. That's what we're going to dive into. End of the day, I'm an NFL guy, and our co-host tonight, Gino, from the That's What G Said podcast, is an NFL guy too. He's going to be coming on. We're going to give our thoughts on the NFL schedule, give you some futures to lock in. Plus, we have some Black-Eyed Susan bets to lock in, NBA bets to lock in, and I found a juicy MLB future that I absolutely love. But before I jump into all that, if you are watching on Twitch, if you could please hit that follow button, it would greatly help me out. Also, for those watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Helps me out greatly. I would like to thank the sponsor of the show, the Sharps betting app. If you're not using Sharps, you are missing out. It is a betting app that is interactive. It allows you to connect to your sports books. You can interact with other gamblers. You can post your picks. You can post little videos while you are betting something. You can tail, you can fade. Great app. If you're not using it, you are really missing out. Excuse me. Also, for those in Iowa, please go over to the DRF Sportsbook. If you're watching on YouTube, link to that is in the description. Use promo code FAST100. That way they know that myself and my co-host tonight, Gino, sent you. Also, guys, if you're not using Thrive Fantasy, you are missing out. Every single day there's an NBA game. Gino and myself give you a Thrive lineup. My Thrive lineup, look, I gave out KCP over 1.5 blocks and steals. That's already hit. Just need, I believe, 3 more assists from LeBron. And my Thrive fantasy bet for tonight has hit, and that pays out 3.2 to 1. Yeah, you heard me. 3.2 to 1 for a 2-team player prop. I mean, guys, we're all gamblers here. We're looking for the best odds. If you're not using Thrive, you are messing out. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description to join Thrive. You can get a deposit match 4 times rollover for that. Those not watching on YouTube, use promo code GINO. That way they know Gino and I sent you. Like I said, we have a great show lined up for you today. So without further ado, let's welcome this week's guest to the show, Gino. Gino, how you doing today, my man?
Doing well, buddy. Dived into the NFL schedule a little bit, ready to talk some football. This was sort of my the last few days since you asked me to come on here was really my first sort of deep dive into the schedule. So looking forward to chopping it up a little bit with you. Early NFL look.
And at the end of the day, Gino and I are both NFL guys. That's actually how we met during the I think we were talking shit about some game, and then during the lockdown, I came on your podcast. Mm-hmm. And ever since there, you and I talk pretty much every single day about sports and betting, and you're in this circle, Gino. You're in the circle of trust. You're like
right back at you. It's a small circle, but you're definitely in it. And as is many times the case, when I was looking through some of your notes for the show, we both have like 3 thoughts on the schedule, and one of them is the same thought or sort of a similar thought. So very often you and I sort of land on the same side of games or plays or certain props. Kind of looking for value always, and kind of playing things, trying to find the way we can get the most value out of it.
Now, we have some comments. Of course, they're all basketball comments to start because the Lakers are playing the Nuggets right now. Bobby must have watched us earlier on Fast Break Bets. Again, every single day there is an NBA game. Gino and I are going to be on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Gino's Facebook feed, and we are going to be giving out our best bets for the day, giving a Thrive Fantasy lineup, like I mentioned. And we are both on KCP over 9.5. He's missed 2 layups. He's got 4 points at half. Maybe he can start. He's had some open looks. Maybe he can
and honestly, the ball's moved around him a little bit. It's been a good half for like Jokic had a big half. Porter hit some shots. Murray took 14 shots in the first half. He was 4 of 5 from 3. So it's not as if, KCP only took 6 shots. I think he's only taken a couple threes so far, but felt like he was going to play well tonight. And it sounds weird. I'm not that worried about the game. Sort of expect you're going to get about the series more so. Maybe win or lose tonight. They're down 16, 18 points right now as we're recording this. But yeah, they do look slow. You're going to get the best effort from Denver right off the bat at home like this. The one big thing that we got to make sure we don't do as gamblers is crazy overreact to like one half or one game, because that's the worst thing we can do. Is Jokic good? Jokic is awesome, but is he going to average 40 points and 35 rebounds a game? Unlikely. And that was the pace he was on in the first half. Is D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves going to miss almost every shot they take? No. So do they need to make a few adjustments here and there? Yeah, I think starting small hurt the Lakers a little more in this situation. They probably would have been a little bit better off with Vanderbilt there because they got out rebounded like crazy to start the game. So, it's like anything. You get a punch, and it was just a little surprising because we haven't seen the Lakers play all that poorly that many games throughout the playoffs. They haven't had that many no-shows or games where it just didn't look like they were putting out a good effort. And in the first half, they just weren't getting back a lot. Like those are things that if you feel like locking down, just picking up the effort a little bit. I'm not concerned long-term. I guess after game 2, if it looked really bad, then you'll see. But even then, the Lakers could very easily come home, win 2 games, and then get in the situation where you just gotta, win 1. Brown's been incredible with cuts. Just got to make adjustments now. I think the Lakers were still sort of in that we were playing Golden State mode, and like we had talked about earlier, this team is so different from Golden State, the way they play with the big, and, they don't have guys you need to chase around quite as much. So we'll see how things go in the next few days.
And I love Bobby. Bobby is the downer Piston fan like I'm in. Pistons could have had a 3-headed monster backcourt of Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and Brown. I mean, that could have been their 3-headed monster backcourt.
Couple scoring, some defense, and a little bit of like Bruce Brown doing all the little things.
And then we get stuck with the 5th pick tonight. And like the rumor is we're going to trade it, but who the hell is going to want to trade for this 5th pick? Like literally, like nobody's going to want to trade anything that they'll need to like make that next step. So yeah, a little down if you are a Pistons fan like me. Congratulations to all the San Antonio Spurs fans.
Oh yeah,
kind of crazy how you've gotten
Robinson, Duncan,
and now you win tonight. I think the big domino to fall with the NBA draft is, do the Trailblazers trade Lillard because they're going to have Henderson? Do they trade? That's the thing. Like, is Henderson's going to be legit? You can possibly get him at the 3 pick, because I don't think the Hornets are going to go after him with Ball. I think they're going to go with Brandon Miller. That means Hendo is on the board. If you take Hendo, I mean, I think you kind of have to do the hard reset with him being the guy.
I agree. I think for them, you've done everything you can, I think, over there in Portland. Like, you've run it back a lot of times with Dame. I just don't think you're going to get farther than where they've been at their best. A round or 2. I think they made a conference final one year and got absolutely crushed when things just sort of bounced their way. I think it's time to just rebuild up there. I agree with you. Where would be a good Dame spot?
Well, I mean, obviously, if Dame's on the board and the Sixers move Harden, Sixers need to go after him because the Sixers need somebody. I mean, Lillard and Giannis have some weird friendship. I don't get it, but they have some weird friendship. I really don't know how that's going to work because of the Bucks have gone over the luxury tax so much that they're going to have to pay an insane rate. I don't think that would be able to work. Maybe New York, go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn needs a star. Pair him with Bridges. I mean, maybe something like that. Houston has a lot of young talent. Maybe go down to Houston. Houston ships up some guys, and that way Houston can look to get into it, because from what I'm hearing, Houston really wants to turn it around and really make that push for the playoffs next year. So it's going to be really interesting to see where that domino falls. But we're here to talk some NFL. Gino, schedule is here. You and I are both nerds. You and I could probably talk NFL. We talk 2 hours every week on your podcast about NFL during the season, but we're just here to talk some schedule, give some quick thoughts. Gino, why don't you kick us off with what your first thought is of the NFL schedule?
Yeah, the first team that sort of jumped out to me is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought last year, towards the end of the year, we saw some real improvement and some growth from them. And then we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think their over-under this year is 8.5 wins. I kind of like their schedule when I look at it, because I think the week one right off the bat is a game that I've already locked in, with the Steelers at home as a 3-point dog against San Francisco. Because what is San Francisco going to be week one quarterback wise? We have no idea. And they're going to have to go to Pittsburgh and play a really tough a tough place to play in week one. And isn't that the situation when we love Tomlin the most? When you're the home dog like that with Pittsburgh. So I think right off the bat, they got back-to-back home games. So they could easily start 2-0 with games against San Francisco and Cleveland. And later in the year, they have, then their next 2 games are on the road, but they're at Raiders, at Houston. I think Houston's going to be a little bit better, but those are winnable games. They have 4 winnable games to start the year. I don't think necessarily they start 4-0, but you look at the rest of their schedule throughout, you have Rams, who will be one of my next takeaways, Tennessee, Green Bay, Arizona, Indy. I don't expect any of those teams to be fantastic this year. I think the Steelers have a good schedule. I like the way it starts for them. And then it's with a team like them who are young still, you get a couple victories early on, your confidence starts to build. I like Pittsburgh over 8.5. I like the way their schedule lays out early.
Yeah, I like their schedule a lot. That Cleveland game is going to be insane. I'm very high on the Browns this year. Bobby chimes in. Good draft too. Yeah, they had a solid draft. They got that offensive lineman from Tennessee. I think they should have done that. The draft. They got Harris. Need to start protecting Pickett. Get Harris going in the running game. Yeah, this schedule lays out, really, really good. And Seattle's an interesting team because they're very high, but they still have Geno Smith as the quarterback. And that's one of their last games is they're at Seattle. So, you have at Seattle, at Indy. Those are 2 winnable games to end the season. Get that 8.5. I like that bet a lot. I will for sure be
because even everyone in the division, if they split with the Bengals are good, but if they split with the Bengals, that's not surprising. Like if they can win the home game against the Bengals, the Ravens, same thing. If they can split with those teams, well, then all of a sudden they're in really nice shape with the way the rest of their schedule. So just sort of got to split with your division, and then the way the rest of the schedule lays out, I think they've got a big chance to get to 9 or 10 wins.
I never wish injury on anybody, but there is a thing of injury luck. We see certain teams go through seasons and not get hurt.
Yeah.
Bengals are one of those teams. Bengals, it seems like every single – no, they had some offensive line.
I was going to say, at the end of last year, it was the O-line, right, in the playoffs. O-line. But, yeah, so maybe –
I don't know if this comment is 100% correct. Maybe –
but – or maybe does that have something to do with some of the specific players that you think they're leaning on this year? Let's make some money. Let us know if you're in the chat and you have us is there a reason specifically why are you, because that is the thing too, right? We don't wish it on anyone, but if you're counting on more injury prone players a lot of the time, then you can sort of expect that it may be a little bit difficult to stay healthy throughout. Pittsburgh, my first of the schedule plays.
My first one here. And you know what? I do this every single year. I find that chalky team that everyone loves, and I look to fade them. I'm betting the New York Jets not to make the playoffs. I know everyone is high on them, but let's just look at the beginning of their schedule. They host the Bills. They're not going to have Breece Hall, more than likely back, who has suffered that ACL injury. So there's your best running back. And you have Aaron Rodgers' first game. Aaron Rodgers historically starts slow off to the season. Last year was Nathaniel Hackett's first year calling plays, and it was a disaster. He was so bad at calling plays. Think of this. He was so bad at calling plays, he took play calling duties away from himself. That's how bad he was. He realized he was over his head. Plus, everyone I talked to about the Nathaniel Hackett system says it's really hard to pick up. So I think it's going to take these guys a couple weeks to get used to this new offensive system. Then on a short week after that, you travel to Dallas, which is Dallas's home opener. Following that, you host New England, first winnable game in my eyes, because New England's obviously is down this year. Then you host KC. After playing KC, you travel to Denver, play in the altitude, and then play the Eagles. And last time I looked, one of the big weaknesses last year of the Jets was stopping the run. Is Aaron Rodgers going to play defensive lineman? I don't think he's going to play defensive lineman. I think they're still going to struggle to start the run. I feel that they're going to start the season 1-5, 2-4. And right there, you're going to be too far behind the 8 ball, because we need to think about how loaded the AFC is. I mean, one team's probably going to make it out of the South, Titans, Jaguars, whoever. And then you look at the division they're in, it has the Bills, Dolphins, the North, Browns, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals. And then out West, you have KC and the Chargers. So I just feel there's just way too many teams, and you get off to a bad start, you're going to be way too far behind the 8 ball. I don't like the way the schedule breaks. I played the Jets not to make the playoffs at plus 125.
Yeah, the schedule to start is brutal. And would anything with Aaron Rodgers surprise you? Like, has he always been the greatest leader? Not recently. Now you're going to go to a new place. I don't know. I'm very trepidatious on this too. I would not play the overs on any of the Jet stuff.
Burrow, only quarterback not to get hurt in the division last year. He did have the appendicitis thing that was a slow start to the year. So that's the only thing. But when you look, Lamar missed time. Pickett did miss some time. And I mean, you can't really say missed time because he was suspended, but it wasn't Watson. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess that kind of makes sense with the comment that he had. Gino, what is your next take away from the schedule?
Yeah, love the Rammies. Big fan, but it's not going to be a very good year for the Rams. One site that you and I like to use for some of our research, Pro Football Focus, they have the Rams roster now after the draft ranked 31st in the league. Their offensive line is not going to be good again. Their over under is 6.5. I'm honestly going to go under, because the big rumor is that the Rams, who have their first round draft pick next year, want to get Caleb Williams. It would make a whole lot of sense to have a guy who's already been a big star in LA just slide right in. I think that might be one of the reasons McVay stayed around. Honestly, thinking that they have their first round pick. He's still young. He can go get someone and just build with him. Now, I don't know, but the rumors of Caleb to the Rams are pretty crazy. Another really notable part of their schedule, they have 3 of their first 4 on the road. Their first 2 home games are against the 49ers and Philly. And like we said, with the 49ers, maybe the first week it might be a little difficult, but even if they don't have their quarterback situation, they're going to be able to tee off on the Rams offensive line, which is just going to be really, really, really bad. And one more note, they're facing 4 teams that are coming off a bye throughout their schedule. That's the most of any team in the league. So think about that. Basically 1/4 of their games, they're facing teams that are way more rested than them. And they're already going to be like facing a major talent deficit to begin. So yeah, I hope I'm wrong on this one, Erik. I'll be happy if I don't. I'll be happy to cash this one. And if I don't cash it, you know what? It means that the Rams are better than I thought they were. But yeah, I'm expecting it to be a tough year for the Rammies.
Well, based on that,
KCP, and he got to 10 for me too. So we got, just like there's the over 9.5. Yeah.
Over 9.5, over 1.5 threes. Woo, KCP coming through.
KCP.
And that means we get to fade him next game, which is going to be lovely. So my one question is, and this was my crazy thought that came to me when I was on the treadmill this morning. Is the NFC West,
that division is so bad,
equivalent of the AFC South?
So the two words, what I just said about Pro Football Focus, what they did is after the draft, they rank every team's roster, strengths, weaknesses. They go through your entire like projected starting lineup on both sides of the ball. And they have the Rams number 31 and the Cardinals 32. So right off the bat, that tells you that, those teams are not supposed to be great. And that division's not going to be great. And Seattle is, I believe, not much higher than that. I think Seattle is like 19, 20. I got to look, but if they're supposed to have the two of the worst teams in the league, that means even if San Francisco's not great, they're probably going to be in really good shape.
It's just, but then like San Francisco, like you mentioned earlier, we don't know what's going on at quarterback.
Yeah.
Like we don't know like what Trey Lance is. He could be brutal. This injury that Purdy had with the UCL joint the elbow, that's a serious injury. So this could take them some while. So that I think the West could be a little bit down. My takeaway, number 2, and Gino, I'm letting you know right now, every single NFL thing we do, I'm a Falcons boy. Last week, I gave out the Falcons to win the South. This week, I'm giving them out to make the playoffs at plus 165.
Nice.
You got 2 home games. So you start off the season, you got Carolina at home. I mean, is it going to be Dalton? Is it going to be Bryce Young? We don't know. Then you have the Packers traveling down there. Jordan Love, again, second back-to-back road starts. They start off at Chicago, which can be tough. And then they travel to Detroit. Now, here's my thing. I'm a huge Lions fan. I'm rocking the Lions hat right now. They are one of the most overhyped teams in the NFL, and we don't really know what we're getting. They had a lot of holes. I don't know. Like, I want to believe the hype is real. I want to believe we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to win a game, but I need to see it to believe it. I think the hype is a little too big for the room. And then you travel all the way to London to play the Jaguars. Only an 8-hour flight. Not that bad of a travel time from Atlanta. Only 8 hours. Then you come back. You play the Texans. They're probably going to be starting Stroud at this point. Rookie quarterback followed by the Commanders. And let's face it, we still don't know, is it Sam Howell? What's going on in their quarterback room? Then you got Tampa. And let's be honest, Mayfield was good to end the year. Was that him or was that McVay? We don't know you know what I mean? That's a big question mark with Tampa. Then you have the Titans, who I'm high on, the Vikings and Cardinals into the bye. They could have 6, maybe 7 wins going into the bye. And then after the bye, you have the Bucks and Colts and Saints all at home. You have cold weather games at the Bears and Jets, in December. But again, 2 teams with a lot of hype that I don't know. I'm not quite buying on them yet because I still think they have some holes. Look, I am on this Falcons team, and this offensive line, I broke it down last week, is going to be a top 10 offensive line in the league. I am all on the Falcons hype train. Give me this plus 165 to make the playoffs. I want the Dirty Bird.
Yep.
All the time, Dirty Bird. I'm all on the Atlanta Falcons.
Dirty Bird.
We're going to add it on plus 165 to make the playoffs.
So for the last one, we can just sort of talk about it together because we had the same sort of look, just how crazy it is for Jacksonville, who had a very good year last year, but, we dove into the down the stretch. They benefited from playing a lot of teams that were not in the best of situations. And now they're sort of that buzzy team, right? They're another one of those real hype teams. They have to play back-to-back games in London for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to impact the team having to go for like 2.5 weeks of your season, not just a few days? This is 2.5 weeks that they're going to have to be there, basically, right? So I just don't know what that's going to do. And following that, it's really early in the year, which is what concerns me the most, Eric, because now all of a sudden that's weeks 4 and 5. So you come home, then you have 3 games before you get your bye after spending a few weeks in London. You have a game against the Colts, which maybe that's not the most difficult game in the world. Then you got to go play at New Orleans and at Pittsburgh. Who knows how good either of those teams are going to be, but those are not tough. Those are not easy places to play. And one of them is on a short week. So you come back from London, you play Indy at home, and then the next week you got a short week on the road at New Orleans.
Yeah.
I just don't like the way the schedule plays out for them. Following the bye, San Francisco. So in week 10, if San Francisco is going to get the quarterback stuff figured out, they'll have it figured out by then. You got a game on the road at Houston. I think you and I both feel like Houston's going to be a little bit better this year.
I think Houston's going to be a team that we're going to be looking to bet a lot
later in the year,
week 8 and beyond.
When they're young, because they're young, figuring it out. A lot of their draft picks are starting to develop, and you can see them like figuring things out. So, I mean, I just walked through this schedule all the way. I don't love it. They got that 3-game stretch in weeks 13 through 15 where they go Cincy, at Cleveland, Baltimore. That's not an easy stretch of 3 games. You could lose all 3 of those.
Not at all. And because of their schedule, I bet the Titans plus 350 to win the South. They opened up with the Colts. Now, anyone that watched Gino and I on our pregame show last year or listened to me on Gino's podcast, I mentioned the trend, how home divisional dogs week 1 are a money train. They open up with the Colts. So, I mean, that trend right there is telling you to bet the Colts. Then week 2, they have KC. We need to remember KC plays on Thursday. So KC is going to be on extended rest coming in to that game. Play the Texans. As you mentioned, they should win. Now, the flight to Jacksonville is 8.5 hours. From London to London from Jacksonville is 8.5 hours. I personally think they're going to stay there. I don't think they're going to be zigzagging back and forth. That is 2 weeks away from your family, away from your normal routine. Think how cranky we get when we have to go visit like family or go, you know what I mean? When you're away,
not sleeping in your own bed,
not sleeping in your own bed, you get cranky, not training out, not doing your normal routine. And these high level athletes have the same rhythm, the same daily plan. And when it's taken out of whack, it throws them off.
Even the coaches, that's not going to be fun for the coaches either, right? Like everybody's going to be equally as uncomfortable.
And then you have, after the game, and you play the Falcons and Bills back to back, 2 tough games.
Right. Those aren't easy games either. That's a good point. Especially with the Falcons, who you think are going to be better than most people do, and then the Bills, who are going to be good. Yeah.
And then you fly back, which, let's face it, it's 5 hours. London's 5 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone. So you're still going to be a little bit jet lagged getting ready. And then you have that early Sunday game. And then you turn around and you play the Saints on Thursday. That is an absolute brutal stretch. And then you play the Steelers. Then off the bye, you have 2 home games against the 49ers, who at this time should have their quarterback situation figured out, and the Titans, but they're 2 physical teams. And then you mentioned that brutal 3-game stretch of the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens. That is a murder's row of games. This is a tough schedule, and this is a team I see some regression for.
Yeah.
This team needed a million things to go right, and they almost lost the Titans
with no quarterback.
What Dobbs as their quarterback. I think the Titans improved their offensive line by drafting my boy Peter. Defense is going to be solid. And you got Henry. I don't know. I like the Titans here. Yeah. I will play him plus 350 to win the South. Now we're going to be jumping into some regular bets, some MLB bets, NBA bets. Top of your head, what team do you think it is I'm going to be betting that's going to be dog shit this year that I'm going to be betting the most on? Because there's always that team that's
you always, but I don't know where, because it's always been your guy Davis Mills the last couple of years in the Texans. So usually at the end of the year, it's been them. Let's see. I don't know. Is it like I could see you at the end of the year starting to play Arizona?
And it's going to be Arizona,
right? I think so. I think so.
I think it's going to be Arizona.
I do too. They're going to get because the lines are going to be so crazy overinflated that I think we're going to end up jumping on them a lot of the times because teams are going to go in there thinking they get an easy game too. And that's going to be a game on the schedule that teams try to take them a little bit lightly. So I thought Arizona might be the team I could see you getting to towards the end, right?
That's going to be my team this year. Colt McCoy, baby. Now we're each going to have 2 bets for later on the week. I have 2 futures. Gino has a Black-Eyed Susan bet and an NBA bet. Gino, I'm going to let you start us off, my friend.
Yeah, Eastern Conference Finals start on Wednesday, and I think the freshest thing in our mind was we all saw the Celtics destroy the 76ers in that second half, and we saw Jason Tatum have an incredible game, like game and a quarter, because Tatum had been pretty bad for about 2 games or so. And that's what I remember a little bit more, though. I'm looking back at Boston, and they got through an Atlanta team that we were talking about, are they going to be blowing it up, trading some of their key pieces? We weren't even sure if they were going to get through the play-in game. They beat Miami, and then Boston kind of struggled with them. And Boston didn't look very good in a lot of points throughout the series. They were down by 4. It was 87-83 in Game 6 against Philadelphia before Jason Tatum hit those 3 threes in a row. And they could have easily lost. And are we supposed to be that impressed that Boston was able to beat one of the worst collection of playoff performers that's ever been put together with Doc Rivers, Harden, and Embiid? I don't know. I don't, because on the flip side, Boston can be better than they were. And now it's like they've gotten a second chance, a second lease on life, right? Like after those first 2 series, they can sort of just put those in the past and play a little bit better here and still win the title. But Miami's been a tough matchup for them. I would absolutely sprinkle a little bit on the money line too, especially in Game 1, because Boston had to deal with the Game 7, right? They're a little bit more tired. They had to get up emotionally for that game. Remember, that game was a 3-point game at halftime? Game 7? Before they went.
Before that third quarter, it was just a steamroll.
Went crazy. So it's amazing that right now I'm actually making a case for Miami. But if I'm thinking about the road Miami has taken to get here, they beat the Bucks, which was really impressive and nobody saw. And now what's difficult, Eric, is that we kind of keep talking about Miami in how they were during the regular season, but they're not really that team. They have a lot of different players that are getting run. They sort of play a different style. Hero is a big part of their regular season, and he's not even around. And the ball's in Butler's hands more. I like them in Game 1 to come out and maybe steal it. And definitely, I think this number is just too big. I think at 8, it just feels way too high.
For those watching that are going to watch Gino and I tomorrow, I'm on the Heat. I got an 8.5, and I think I got them at plus 300. Just to piggyback what you said, teams going from Game 7 to Game 1, I think it's a 43% cover rate. I don't know off the top of my head. And then it's like at 83%, 84% teams the last 2 years that have covered have won. So dogs that are covering are straight up winning the game, unless you're the Knicks from a couple days ago when you just covered. But I'm going to be on the Heat here plus the 8. I absolutely love that. And I was talking to one of my guys that I know that, works in the NBA, and he made a real interesting comment to me, and I want to get your 2 cents on it. His comment was, if Hero didn't get hurt, they wouldn't be here. And he feels that way because the offense is different now.
Yep.
It was just,
and they're better defensively.
ISO. Yeah, just so much ISO with Hero bouncing the ball and then looking to drive. Here, people are moving more. They're cutting more. A lot of back picks, a lot of back cuts. His thing was like, look, if Hero doesn't get hurt, they may not even beat Milwaukee. That was his thing because of the ISO ball. It was a really interesting comment, really interesting conversation. What do you think?
Little run for the Lakes right now too, cutting it. Austin Reeves had a few, so we got over 14.5 for Reeves, which was another one of our plays that gave out earlier today. So
it's just going to come down to which one of us gets the cover. Because
it's close.
You're on the +6, so
yeah. So like now,
so we gotta see what happens in that game. So my thing is, my first bet that I'm giving out is I'm going to the MLB, and I'm playing Bryce Miller wins Rookie of the Year at 10-1. Look, he's 3-0 to start the year. He's only given up one flipping run in 3 starts. ERA of 0.47, averaging 6 strikeouts per game. Now, look, I know Yosinda is a big betting favorite and rightfully so. But if he hits that hitting slump, which I think is going to be coming because he's on such a tear this month, and the Mariners make a run, Red Sox weren't supposed to be any good this year. Mariners were supposed to be competing for the West title with the Astros. If they make that run and Miller has a good season, this could easily become narrative driven. I'm seeing 10-1 on a rookie that's only given up 1 run and has a 0.47 ERA. I got to take Bryce Miller to win the Rookie of the Year at 10-1. Gino, rumor has it there's a big horse race on Friday.
Yeah, it's Preakness weekend. So Preakness is on Saturday. Friday is like the Philly kind of Preakness. It's the big race for the Phillies. It's called the Black-Eyed Susan. And the heavy favorite in there is Fiza. But I think Merlaza is a little bit interesting. This is the number 4 in the race. It's going to be race number 13 on Friday. Yeah, there's 14 races at Pimlico. So Pimlico Friday, race number 13. The number 4 Merlaza is 6-1 on the morning line. She's raced 4 times in her career debut. She just missed. She was second, beaten by a head. And then she's come back and she's won 3 races in a row, all really impressive visually. She has a nice running style where she's not right on the lead. She just sits like right behind, and they can kind of place her just behind the leaders and kind of push the button and go. She's been visually impressive. I think if she's anything in that 5-1-ish range, that's good value on Merlaza.
So I want to ask you this question, then I want to read what Wojo just tweeted out. Do you have a Black-Eyed Susan Preakness daily double?
Yeah. I would go Merlaza, and then I would play in the Preak First Mission. I think if you're trying to beat Mage, First Mission is the second choice. Drawn to the outside. He's going to sit that same exact kind of trip I'm talking about with Merlaza. I think he may be able to get the jump on Mage. There's not a whole lot of speed in the Preakness. It looks like there's maybe 1 or 2 that will be close up, and I think First Mission sits a good trip. So I'd play the 4 with the 8 double.
I like that. I like First Mission. That's who I'm probably going to be betting in the Preakness, and I'm definitely going to play that double on Friday. Wojo just tweeted this out. Ja Morant, I know I've disappointed a lot of people who have supported me. This is a journey, and I recognize there is more work to do. My words may not mean much right now, but I take full accountability for my actions, and I'm committed to continuing to work on myself. This just happened. You know what I mean? This literally just happened. And he's got look, okay, so let me ask you this. His mom is at a Foot Locker and calls Ja, and Ja shows up there with 8 of his friends, and they bully this kid, and who's basically locks himself in a storage room. I mean, like, who puts their kid in that position? When he's an NBA player, and then there's something happened at a volleyball game that his sister was playing at. She calls him again, and they try to fight a teenage girl.
Yeah, there was the incident at the park with a pickup game. Who knows? And it's like, who knows what he's on the right or wrong side? The one thing I don't understand, Erik, is like, if you were my friend, anyone out there, and I would like, why would you let people continue to film you and like put you on live? Like, wouldn't you just say, dude, just turn your phone off? Like that's the biggest thing, is that I don't know. And I'm not going to say what he can and can't do in his personal life behind closed doors, but what you're doing, the money that you're getting. Why would you risk that? The fact that it doesn't register to him the opportunity that he has, the millions of dollars that he gets every year. I mean, he's the leader of that franchise. How can they trust and build around him? It really rubs me the wrong way.
Now, just think about this. You had Scooney coming in. You have Victor coming in. You have people coming in that are going to replace you. And he could easily lose all that money. He's probably going to be suspended 20 games. You have a kid. If your kid, let's say what's your kid right now? 6?
3 or 3? No, going to be 4 soon. Yeah, 3.5.
Way off. So he's 4.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, let's say he's 8 or 9. He's playing basketball. He's going to be looking up the job,
and he's going to see those things online. He's going to see where that stuff goes. He's going to think that's cool. They're going to think that's funny, and it bothers me because I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to act like I haven't done things that I'm not proud of or I wouldn't want on social media. But like, I think a lot of your friends, they wouldn't do that. Like, why would they put you on there like that? Don't they understand too what's going on with him? Like, is there this like trying to be cool, right? Is that really what it comes down to? It's frustrating because, I'm not like some prude, right? I'm not someone who's like a super conservative person. So if I'm bothered by things, it's usually probably hit a mark. And man, you just got suspended for that. Like, this just happened earlier in the year. This is the second time within a few months. Like, you didn't take anything seriously at all.
It's bordering, reckless to dangerous right now. That's what's happening. Last bet for me, and look, I'm going to an NBA future. I am taking Jaylen Brown to score the most points in the series at
It's your boy.
1. My thought process is this: both coaches have talked about how they're not going to let Tatum and Butler beat them. Celtics will play Butler similar to Harden. Pick him up full court, face guard him at the half court sets, not let him get the ball. I think Miami will be blitzing Tatum in the pick and roll and not end up in the same situation the 76ers were in. The situation the 76ers were in was it'd be a switch, and then Embiid was on there, and Embiid's the lost dog trying to guard Tatum. So I think they're going to blitz him, force Tatum to be more of a playmaker, and the matchup for Brown is a good one. Brown will get open looks. We need to remember this Miami team gave up the 3rd most 3-pointers per game to opposing shooting guards. I think it's a great matchup for Brown. I'm seeing Brown plus 800 to score the most points. I absolutely love it. Gino, game 1, you're the Laker fan. I appreciate you coming on to talk some shop. Why don't you tell everyone when That's When G Said podcast is going to be coming out this week?
Yeah, we'll have it come out on Thursday evening. We'll have a lot of Preakness stuff, talk about what's going on in basketball, and preview some racing. I'm doing work again with Louisiana Downs, Santa Anita, so I'll have some stuff for both of them, selections and analysis coming up this weekend. And I think you and I might have a quick NBA chat maybe tomorrow just to preview these 2 conference final series.
Yep, looking forward to it. And then Gino's going to come on my podcast, which will come out Friday. We'll be breaking out the Preakness. Gino, thanks for coming on. Make sure you give Gino a follow on Twitter at It's Me, Gino B. We'll be back next week with Josh from Sharks. Let's make some money. Let's cash some tickets. Until next week, boys and girls.